Some doors only open when you stop knocking. Some men only see you when you've already turned away. Tonight, Isabella Moreau would walk into the most dangerous room in the city on the arm of the one man who could make Rafael DeSantis burn. The ballroom glittered with power and lies, but only one truth mattered. The man who'd spent 3 years pushing her away was about to realize what he'd lost. And obsession once ignited doesn't ask permission. If you love stories about powerful men who fall hardest, please like, share, and subscribe. The rejection came on a Tuesday. Isabella stood in Rafael DeSantis's office, her portfolio clutched against her chest like armor. The space was cold, all dark wood and darker intent. He sat behind his desk, tattooed hands folded, eyes flat. No. One word. No explanation. No softness. She'd proposed a partnership between her family's art gallery and his cultural foundation. 6 months of work. Perfect synergy. But Rafael looked at her like she was a problem to be eliminated. Mr. DeSantis, if you just... Miss Moreau. His voice was winter itself. The answer is no. My assistant will show you out. That was 3 years ago. 3 years of occasional encounters at charity events. 3 years of his cold dismissals whenever she approached. 3 years of watching him from across crowded rooms, feeling the weight of his indifference like a stone in her chest. Isabella told herself she'd moved on. She was lying. Even now, preparing for the annual DeSantis Foundation Gala, her hands trembled as she zipped her gown. The emerald silk clung to her curves, elegant and daring. She'd chosen it before she knew who her escort would be. You look stunning, Julian DeSantis said from her doorway. Rafael's younger brother was everything his older sibling wasn't. Warm where Rafael was cold. Approachable where Rafael was fortress. They'd become friends over the past 6 months, bonding over shared interests in art and literature. Nothing romantic, but no one else would know that. Ready to make an entrance? Julian offered his arm, eyes twinkling with mischief. Isabella hesitated. She knew what this would look like. Julian, beloved and charming, arriving with her. Rafael would see. Rafael would think. Good. Let him think whatever he wanted. She was tired of being invisible. Let's go. The ballroom was a cathedral of wealth and danger. Chandeliers dripped crystal light over Italy's most powerful families. Politicians, businessmen, and carefully concealed criminals moved through the space like chess pieces. At the center of it all, commanding the room without moving, stood Rafael DeSantis. He wore a black suit tailored to devastating perfection. Dark hair pushed back, revealing the sharp angles of his face. Tattoos peeked from his collar and cuffs, reminders of violence wrapped in civility. At 34, he was the youngest mafia boss in the city's history. Feared, respected, untouchable. His eyes found her the moment she entered. Isabella felt the impact like a physical blow. For 3 years Rafael had looked through her. Now he was staring. His expression remained neutral, but something flickered beneath the surface. Something dark and hungry. Julian's hand rested lightly on her lower back, guiding her through the crowd. They stopped to greet guests, Julian charming everyone with effortless grace. Isabella smiled and nodded, but her awareness was elsewhere. Rafael was watching. Always watching. Dance with me, Julian whispered. Might as well give them a show. The orchestra swelled. Julian led her onto the floor, his movements fluid and practiced. They'd danced before at other events. Meant nothing. But Isabella couldn't shake the feeling that tonight, everything meant something. He's going to murder me, Julian murmured, amused. Who? My brother. He hasn't looked away from you once. Isabella's heart stuttered. Rafael doesn't care about me. He's made that abundantly clear. You really believe that? Julian spun her gently. Isabella, my brother is many things. Subtle isn't one of them. He's been protecting you from himself for years. Before she could respond, the music shifted. Julian released her with a slight bow. And then Rafael was there, appearing like a shadow made solid. Hey, His voice was low, dangerous. Not really a question. Julian stepped back, yielding with a knowing smile. Isabella found herself in Rafael's arms before she could think. His hand settled on her waist, possessive and certain. The other clasped her fingers with surprising gentleness. Up close she could see the barely controlled tension in his jaw. The way his eyes traced her face like he was memorizing evidence. They moved together in silence. The ballroom faded. There was only this. The heat of his palm burning through silk, the controlled strength in every movement, the way he held her just slightly too close. "You look beautiful," Raphael said finally. Each word seemed dragged from somewhere deep. Isabella's breath caught. 3 years of rejection and now this? "Thank you. Julian is a good man." "Yes, he is." "Is it serious?" There was the jealousy wrapped in casual inquiry. Isabella met his gaze, seeing the storm behind the control. He should tell him the truth. But something reckless rose inside her instead. Would it matter if it was? Raphael's grip tightened fractionally. No. The lie was obvious. The tension between them crackled like lightning before thunder. Isabella felt dizzy with it, with the proximity she'd craved and feared for years. "Then why are you asking?" The music ended. Raphael released her immediately, stepping back as if she'd burned him. His expression shuttered, returning to that familiar coldness. But Isabella had seen beneath it now. She'd felt the tremor in his touch. "Enjoy your evening, Miss Moreau," he said, formal and distant. Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd. Isabella escaped to the terrace. The night air cooled her flushed skin. She gripped the marble railing, trying to steady her racing thoughts. What was that? Why now after all this time? "You're dangerous to him." She turned. An older man stood in the shadows, smoke curling from his cigarette. Marco Rinaldi, one of Raphael's captains. Dangerous himself. "I don't understand. Rafael de Santos doesn't let people close. Can't afford to. In our world, love is a weapon. Every person you care about becomes leverage." Marco studied her with calculating eyes. "He's been keeping you at a distance to keep you safe. That's not. You think it's coincidence that every man who's shown interest in you over the past 3 years suddenly lost interest? You think it's luck that your gallery has never been robbed, despite being in a dangerous neighborhood?" Marco's smile was cold. "My boss has been protecting you in the only way he knows how. By staying away." Isabella's mind raced. The sudden breakups. The mysterious security improvements around her building. The deals that fell through for competitors but somehow worked out for her. "He rejected my proposal," she whispered, "because accepting it would have tied you to him publicly. Made you a target." Marco flicked his cigarette over the railing. "But bringing you here tonight on Julian's arm? That changes everything. Raphael can't pretend anymore. And in our world, Miss Moreau, pretending is survival." He left her there, alone with revelations that rewrote 3 years of pain. Later that night, Isabella found herself back inside, searching the crowd. For what, she wasn't sure. Answers. Closure. Another glimpse of the hunger she'd seen in Raphael's eyes. A hand closed around her wrist. Not rough but firm. Inescapable. Raphael pulled her through a side door, down a corridor into a private study. He released her immediately, putting distance between them. The room was dark except for moonlight through tall windows. "You should leave," Raphael said, his back to her. "Leave this party. Leave Julian. Leave this city if you're smart." "Why?" Isabella's voice shook with anger and confusion. "Why do you get to decide what I do?" He turned. In the shadows he looked even more dangerous. "A beautiful, terrible thing. Because if you don't leave, I won't be able to stay away anymore." "Then don't." The words hung between them. Raphael's control visibly cracked. He moved toward her in 3 long strides, backing her against the desk. His hands caged her in, gripping the wood on either side of her hips. He didn't touch her. Didn't cross that final line. "You don't know what you're asking for," he said, voice raw. "I'm not a good man, Isabella. I do terrible things. I hurt people. I destroy anything that threatens what's mine. I'm not yours." "Yes, you are." The confession tore out of him. "You've been mine since the moment you walked into my office with that ridiculous portfolio, looking at me like I was someone worth believing in. I've been yours every day since. Every rejection. Every cold dismissal. Every time I watched you from across a room and hated myself for wanting you." Isabella's breath came in short gasps. "You pushed me away. To protect you. From me. From my world. From the consequences of being loved by someone like me." His face was inches from hers now, his control hanging by a thread. "But I'm not strong enough anymore. Not when Julian touches you. Not when other men look at you. Not when you're standing here in this dress in my house, making me remember that I'm still human enough to want. Raphael. Tell me to stop. Tell me you want Julian or anyone else. Give me a reason to walk away." She should. She should run from this intensity, this dangerous obsession. But Isabella had spent 3 years trying to fall out of love with a man who'd never let her close. Now he was offering her everything, wrapped in warning and hunger. "I can't," she whispered. Raphael's control shattered. His mouth crashed against hers, fierce and claiming. Isabella gasped, and he deepened the kiss, one hand sliding into her hair while the other finally touched her waist. The kiss was everything she'd imagined and nothing she'd prepared for. Consuming. Desperate. Years of denial combusting into flames. When they broke apart, both breathless, Raphael rested his forehead against hers. "Stay away from Julian publicly," he said roughly. "I know it's not romantic. I know he's just your friend. But I can't watch it, Isabella. I can't pretend I'm civilized when another man has his hands on you. Okay. If you're with me, people will come after you. They'll try to use you against me. I'll protect you with everything I have, but there are no guarantees in my world. I understand. I'm obsessed with you. Unhealthily. Dangerously. I've watched you for years. I know your routine. Your favorite coffee shop. The route you take home. I'm already too far gone." Isabella cupped his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. "Maybe I want to be obsessed over." Raphael kissed her again, softer this time. Reverent. Like she was something precious he'd finally allowed himself to hold. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with promise and possession. "You're mine now," he said simply. "Say it. I'm yours. And I'm yours. Every terrible part of me." The next morning, Isabella woke in her own bed, alone. For a moment she wondered if she'd dreamed it. Then she saw the note on her nightstand, written in bold, precise handwriting. "Had to handle something. Don't go anywhere alone today. Marco will be outside. R." She should have been annoyed by the presumption. Instead she felt a strange warmth. This was Raphael's version of affection. Protection disguised as control. Her phone buzzed. "Julian. Breakfast. Need to talk." They met at a cafe in neutral territory. Julian looked tired but amused as Isabella approached. "Let me guess," he said. "My brother pulled you into a dark room last night and confessed his undying, slightly unhinged devotion." Isabella blushed. "Something like that." "Good. He's been insufferable for years. Maybe now he'll be insufferable in a productive way." Julian's expression sobered. "But I need to warn you, Isabella. Raphael loves completely. When he commits, there's no halfway. It's total. Consuming. He'll give you everything, but he'll also expect everything in return." "I know. Do you? Because my brother has enemies. Real ones. And now that you're with him, you're vulnerable. He'll do anything to protect you. But anything in Raphael's world includes things that would horrify normal people." Isabella thought about the tattoos hiding under Raphael's clothes. The carefully controlled violence she'd sensed beneath his surface. The reputation that preceded him everywhere. "I'm not afraid of him," she said quietly. "You should be. A little." Julian smiled sadly. "But I think you're exactly what he needs. Someone strong enough to love him and sane enough to call him on his shit. Just be careful. For both of your sakes." Days passed. Raphael was attentive in unexpected ways. He didn't smother or crowd. Instead, he appeared at precise moments, as if he'd calculated exactly when she'd want him there. Morning coffee delivered to her gallery before opening. A new security system installed without asking. His hand at her back when they attended an art exhibition, possessive and grounding. But Isabella began to notice other things too. The way conversations stopped when she entered rooms. The wary looks from people in Raphael's organization. The tension that never quite left his shoulders. He was living in two worlds now. Her gallery by day, filled with beauty and light. Raphael's darkness by night, seductive and dangerous. "Tell me about your work," she said one evening. They were in his penthouse, overlooking the city. Raphael had poured wine but barely touched his glass. "What do you want to know?" His voice was careful. "The truth. Not the sanitized version." Raphael studied her for a long moment. Then he spoke, his words deliberate and honest. He told her about the business. The legitimate operations and the illegal ones. The violence he'd inherited from his father and the control he maintained through fear and respect. The enemies who'd love nothing more than to exploit a weakness. "You're my weakness now," he finished quietly. "The only one that matters." Isabella absorbed this. She should have been repulsed. Should have run. But she'd spent her life around art, understanding that beauty and darkness often coexisted. Raphael was no different. A masterpiece composed of contradictions. I won't apologize for what I am, he added. But I'll never let that darkness touch you. What if I'm stronger than you think? You are. That's what terrifies me. She crossed to him, settling in his lap. Raphael's arms came around her immediately, holding her close. This intimacy was still new, still fragile. But Isabella felt safe here, wrapped in the arms of a dangerous man who'd appointed himself her guardian. I'm not going anywhere, she whispered. Raphael's grip tightened. Promise me. I promise. It was a vow she'd soon be tested on. The threat came 2 weeks later. Isabella was closing her gallery when a man entered. Mid-40s, expensive suit, cold smile. He didn't belong to Raphael's world, but he smelled of similar danger. Miss Moreau. I'm Giovanni Russo. The name meant nothing to her. But the way his eyes assessed her, calculating and predatory, made her skin crawl. We're closed. This won't take long. I have a message for Raphael DeSantis. He stepped closer. Tell your lover that his protection of the Eastern Territory is causing problems for my operations. Tell him to back off or there will be consequences. I'm not a messenger. No. You're much more valuable than that. Russo's smile widened. Your leverage. Beautiful, civilian, completely unprotected in this little gallery. Raphael's made a mistake claiming you so publicly. He's shown us exactly how to hurt him. Fear spiked through her, but Isabella kept her voice steady. You should leave. Soon. But first let me be clear. Raphael has 1 week to withdraw from the East. If he doesn't, we'll come back. And next time we won't be so polite. He paused at the door. You should reconsider this relationship, Miss Moreau. Men like Raphael don't stay in love. But they do get the people they claim to love killed. Then he was gone. Isabella locked the door with shaking hands and immediately called Raphael. He answered on the first ring. Giovanni Russo was just here. Silence. Then, in a voice colder than she'd ever heard, Are you hurt? No. But Raphael, he threatened. Where are you? The gallery. I'm locking up now. Stay there. I'm coming. He arrived in less than 10 minutes, entering like a storm. Marco and 2 other men flanked him. Raphael went straight to Isabella, hands cupping her face, eyes scanning for injuries. Tell me exactly what he said. She repeated the conversation. With each word, Raphael's expression grew harder, more dangerous. This was the man his enemies feared. The one who destroyed threats without hesitation. Did he touch you? No. Good. Because if he had, there wouldn't be enough left of him to identify. Raphael pulled her against his chest, his heart pounding beneath her ear. This is my fault. I should have anticipated this. You can't control everything. I can try. He pulled back, eyes fierce. You're moving into my penthouse. Tonight. Non-negotiable. Raphael. They know where you live, Isabella. They know your routine. They've been watching you probably for days. Either you come with me or I station armed guards at your apartment. Your choice. It wasn't really a choice. And maybe Isabella didn't want it to be. Maybe she'd been waiting for an excuse to dive fully into Raphael's world, danger and all. Okay. Relief flashed across his face, quickly masked. Marco, secure the gallery. I want eyes on every entrance. No one gets within a block of this building without clearance. He turned back to Isabella. Pack what you need. Everything else I'll replace. You can't just. Yes, I can. And I will. His thumb traced her cheek, infinitely gentle despite the violence humming beneath his skin. You're mine to protect, Isabella. That means I don't take chances with your safety. Raphael's penthouse was a fortress disguised as luxury. Bulletproof windows. Reinforced doors. Armed security discreetly positioned throughout the building. Isabella should have felt trapped. Instead, she felt something closer to relief. That first night, Raphael didn't touch her beyond holding her hand. He showed her to the guest room, though they both knew she wouldn't use it. Then he made calls, his voice low and lethal, orchestrating responses to Russo's threat. Isabella listened from the doorway, watching him command his empire with brutal efficiency. This was who he really was. Not the polished businessman at charity events, but the tattooed boss who ruled through controlled violence. When he finally hung up, exhaustion flickered across his face. Then he noticed her standing there. You should sleep, he said. So should you. I will. After I confirm everything's secure. Isabella crossed to him, taking his hands. They were warm and strong, capable of terrible things. Capable of incredible gentleness. It's secure. You made sure of it. Come to bed, Raphael. Something in his eyes cracked. He let her lead him to his bedroom, this powerful man suddenly vulnerable. They undressed in silence, the intimacy more profound than anything physical. Isabella climbed into his bed wearing his shirt. Raphael followed, pulling her against his chest. I won't let anything happen to you, he murmured into her hair. I'll burn the entire city down first. I know. Are you afraid of me? Isabella thought about it honestly. Sometimes. A little. But I'm more afraid of losing you. Raphael's arms tightened. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, two people trying to find safety in each other. The next days were a strange new normal. Isabella worked remotely, managing her gallery through calls and video conferences. Raphael was often out handling his response to Russo's threat, but he always returned to her. Always kissed her hello and held her like she might disappear. Julian visited frequently, bringing news and normalcy. He and Isabella maintained their friendship, though Raphael's jealousy still flickered occasionally. But he trusted his brother. Trusted Isabella. That trust was a gift, hard-won and precious. Russo's getting desperate, Julian said one afternoon. They were having coffee in Raphael's kitchen while the boss himself was in meetings. Raphael's cut off his supply lines. Frozen his assets. The man's hemorrhaging money and power. Will he give up? Men like Russo don't give up. They escalate. Julian's expression darkened. Raphael knows that. He's preparing for the worst. Which is direct confrontation. Violence. A move against you. Fear curled in Isabella's stomach, but she pushed it down. She'd chosen this. Chosen Raphael and everything that came with him. How do I help? You stay safe. That's how you help. Because if something happens to you, my brother will become the monster everyone already thinks he is. And there won't be any coming back from that. The attack came on a Friday. Isabella was in the penthouse gym, music playing through her headphones. She didn't hear the initial breach. Didn't realize anything was wrong until Marco burst in, gun drawn. We need to move. Now. Her blood froze. Raphael knows. He's on his way. But Russo's men are in the building. Come with me. They ran through corridors Isabella barely recognized. Marco moved with military precision, his weapon raised, his focus absolute. They made it to the secure elevator. The doors were closing when gunfire erupted. Marco shoved Isabella to the floor, returning fire. She pressed her hands over her ears, terror making her dizzy. This was real. This was happening. The elevator descended. Marco spoke rapidly into his radio, coordinating with Raphael's forces. When the doors opened, they were in the underground garage. A car waited, engine running. Get in. Isabella obeyed, numb with shock. Marco drove like he was trained for exactly this, taking turns at speed, checking mirrors constantly. They were 3 blocks away when Isabella's phone rang. She answered with shaking hands. Are you hurt? His voice was barely controlled fury. No. Marco got me out. Where are you? Marco gave their location. Raphael's exhale was audible. I'm coming to you. Stay in the car. Don't move until you see me. He hung up. Isabella looked at Marco. Is it over? The immediate threat? Yes. Raphael's men secured the penthouse. Marco's jaw was tight. But Russo crossed a line, attacking Raphael's home. There are rules in our world. He broke the most important one. Raphael won't let this stand. They waited in tense silence. 5 minutes later, 3 black SUVs pulled up. Raphael emerged from the center vehicle, and Isabella had never seen him look more dangerous. His suit was disheveled, gun visible at his hip, his face a mask of cold rage. He yanked open her door, pulling her out and into his arms. The embrace was crushing, desperate. Isabella felt him shaking. I'm sorry, he said roughly. I'm so sorry. This never should have happened. It's not your fault. It is. Every part of this is my fault. He pulled back, hands framing her face. You could have died today because of me. But I didn't. Marco protected me. Your system worked. Raphael's eyes were wild, haunted. You need to leave, Isabella. Leave the city. I'll set you up somewhere safe, somewhere Russo and people like him can't find you. I'll make sure you're protected and provided for, but you can't stay here. You can't stay with me. The words hit like a physical blow. What? I can't do this. I can't put you in danger. I love you too much to watch you die because of my choices. No. Isabella grabbed his wrists, holding tight. No, you don't get to decide this alone. We're in this together. You almost. Almost doesn't count. Raphael, I knew what I was choosing when I agreed to be with you. I knew the risks. I'm not leaving because things got scary. That's not how love works. You deserve better than this. Better than me. I deserve to make my own choices. And I choose you. All of you. The darkness, the danger, the obsessive protection. I choose this life because it means being with you. Raphael looked torn between hope and despair. You're not safe with me. I'm not safe without you either. At least together we can fight. He pressed closer, willing him to understand. Please don't push me away again. I won't survive it twice. Something broke in him. Raphael kissed her hard, pouring everything into it. Fear, love, desperation, relief. When they separated, his decision was made. Okay, he whispered. Hey. But things change. Starting now. That night, Raphael called a meeting. Isabella sat beside him in the penthouse conference room, surrounded by his most trusted people. Marco, Julian, and a dozen others. They were planning war. Russo violated sanctuary, Raphael said, his voice carrying absolute authority. He brought violence to my home. Threatened my woman. That ends tonight. The response was immediate. Strategies proposed, resources allocated. Isabella watched Raphael command his people with a mixture of fascination and unease. This was his element. This was where he lived. I want him alive, Raphael continued. He answers for what he's done. He apologizes to Isabella personally. Then we deal with him. And if he resists? Marco asked. Raphael's smile was terrifying. Then we make an example that ensures no one else gets similar ideas. The meeting lasted hours. When everyone finally left, Isabella and Raphael were alone. He pulled her onto the couch, wrapping himself around her like he needed the contact to breathe. Are you okay with this? He asked quietly. With what I'm going to do. Isabella considered lying. Considered telling him she was fine with the violence, the retribution. But Raphael deserved honesty. I don't know, she admitted. Part of me wants Russo punished for what he tried to do. Part of me is horrified by how easily this world turns to violence. But I understand why it's necessary. In your world, mercy is weakness. Yes. Will you kill him? Raphael was quiet for a long moment. Probably. Eventually. After he's served his purpose as a warning. He tilted her face up to his. Does that change how you feel about me? No. Because I know you'd never hurt someone who didn't deserve it. You have your own code. Brutal but consistent. I'm still a monster, Isabella. You're my monster. She kissed him softly. And I love you. Every violent, protective, obsessive part of you. Raphael's response was to carry her to bed, where he proceeded to show her exactly how much he loved her in return. Their intimacy was fierce and tender, consuming and worshipful. When they finally collapsed together, exhausted and complete, Isabella knew there was no going back. She was his. He was hers. For better or worse, in darkness and in light. 3 days later, Russo was captured. Raphael came home late, blood on his knuckles, exhaustion in his eyes. Isabella cleaned his hands in the bathroom sink, neither of them speaking. The violence was done. Justice in Raphael's world had been served. It's over, he said finally. He won't threaten anyone again. Isabella nodded. She didn't ask for details. Didn't need them. What happens now? Now we figure out how to live. Really live, not just survive. Raphael caught her hand, pressing it to his chest. I want everything with you, Isabella. Marriage. Family. A life that's more than just reacting to threats. I want that too. But first I need to secure my territory completely. Make sure no one else gets ideas. That means I'll be busy for the next few weeks. Meetings, negotiations, consolidations. It won't be romantic. I don't need romance. I need you. You have me. You'll always have me. He pulled her close, breathing her in. I promise you when this is done I'm going to marry you. Make you mine in every way that matters. Give you the life you deserve. I already have the life I deserve. Because it has you in it. They stood there holding each other, two people who'd found something rare and precious in the darkness. Love that wasn't easy or simple. Love that demanded everything and gave everything in return. Isabella thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, standing in Raphael's office with her portfolio and her hope. That woman had been rejected. Dismissed. Heartbroken. But that rejection had been protection. Distance had been devotion in disguise. And now, standing in the aftermath of violence and choice, Isabella understood what Raphael had always known. Some loves are worth the danger. Worth the sacrifice. Worth burning the whole world down to protect. And Raphael DeSantis loved her like that. The penthouse was secure. Russo was eliminated. But the real battle was just beginning, because in Raphael's world, victory only invites new challengers. And Isabella was about to discover that choosing to stay meant choosing to become something she never imagined. Not just Raphael's lover, but his equal. His partner. His queen in a kingdom built on blood and devotion. The weeks following Russo's elimination were deceptively peaceful. Raphael worked constantly, restructuring his operations to prevent future vulnerabilities. Isabella returned to her gallery, though now with permanent security. Marco became a fixture in her life, silent and watchful. She'd stopped minding. Raphael came home to her every night. Sometimes late, always exhausted, but he came. He'd find her wherever she was, reading, working, waiting, and pull her into his arms like she was oxygen itself. "Tell me about your day," he'd say, pressing his face into her hair. And she would. Small stories about artists and exhibitions. Normal things that had nothing to do with his world. Raphael listened like she was reciting poetry, grounding himself in her voice. These were the moments Isabella treasured most. Not the grand gestures or the possessive declarations. Just Raphael, stripped of his armor, choosing gentleness. But peace never lasted in his world. The invitation arrived on a Monday. Isabella found Raphael in his office, staring at a cream envelope with the kind of focus reserved for threats. She crossed to his desk, curious. "What is it?" "The Bianchi family is hosting a summit. Every major family in Italy will be there." Raphael's jaw was tight. "It's a show of unity. Or a trap. Hard to tell." "Do you have to go?" "Yes." Refusing would be seen as weakness. Or guilt. He looked up at her, something vulnerable in his eyes. "I want you to come with me." Isabella's heart stuttered. "Is that safe?" "No. But keeping you here alone isn't safe either. And I need you there." His hand found hers across the desk. "I need people to see that I'm not just the monster they fear. That I'm a man who loves someone. Who has something to lose beyond power. You want me as a humanizing prop? I want you as my partner. My equal. The woman who chose me despite every reason not to." Raphael stood, circling the desk to pull her close. "This summit will determine the balance of power for the next decade. The families will be evaluating everyone. Testing boundaries. If they see you as weakness, we're vulnerable. But if they see you as strength, as someone who makes me more dangerous, not less, we're untouchable." Isabella understood the game now. In Raphael's world, everything was strategy. Even love. When? This weekend. Venice. 3 days of negotiations, displays of power, and very dangerous people pretending to be civilized. "Sounds romantic," she said dryly. Raphael's smile was genuine, rare. "I promise you after this is done I'll take you somewhere actually romantic. Somewhere safe. Just us. I'll hold you to that." Venice was beautiful and treacherous in equal measure. They arrived by private boat, gliding through canals toward the Bianchi Palazzo. The building rose from the water like an ancient fortress, all weathered stone and dark windows. Other boats were arriving simultaneously, carrying Italy's most powerful criminals. Isabella wore a deep red gown that clung to her curves like armor. Raphael had insisted on the color. "Let them see you're not afraid," he'd said while fastening a diamond necklace around her throat. "Let them see you're mine." Now, his hand rested possessively at her lower back as they entered the palazzo. The grand hall was filled with dangerous elegance. Men in expensive suits, women dripping jewelry, everyone assessing everyone else. Isabella felt the weight of their attention immediately. He was the outsider. The civilian who'd somehow infiltrated their world. Some faces showed curiosity. Others contempt. A few showed something more dangerous, interest. "Stay close to me," Raphael murmured. "Don't accept drinks from anyone else. Don't go anywhere alone. And if someone makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. You can't fight everyone who looks at me wrong. Watch me. The summit began with formal introductions. Each family head stood, acknowledged the gathering, made subtle shows of strength. When Raphael's turn came, he rose with lethal grace. The DeSantis family honors this gathering, he said, voice carrying absolute authority. We come in good faith, seeking mutual prosperity and respect. His hand found Isabella's shoulder. And I come with my future wife, Isabella Moreau. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me directly. The message was clear. She wasn't a weakness to exploit. She was a line not to cross. Isabella felt dozens of eyes reassessing her. The declaration had changed the game. She wasn't just Raphael's lover anymore. She was his chosen partner, elevated to a position of protection and power. When Raphael sat, he leaned close. That was the easy part. The summit stretched across 3 days of elaborate meals, private meetings, and carefully orchestrated socializing. Isabella navigated it all with growing confidence, learning the unspoken rules. She spoke when spoken to, but not excessively. She showed intelligence without challenging egos. She remained close to Raphael, a visible symbol of his commitment, while also demonstrating she wasn't merely decorative. Julian was there too, serving as Raphael's second. He moved through the crowds with easy charm, building bridges where Raphael's intensity created distance. The brothers worked in perfect tandem, Julian softening what Raphael hardened. You're doing well, Julian told her during a break. They're taking you seriously. That's rare. I'm terrified I'll make a mistake. You won't. You understand what matters. Loyalty. These people respect power, but they value loyalty more. By standing with Raphael publicly, you're proving yours. That earns respect. But not everyone was won over. On the second night, during dinner, Isabella found herself seated next to Vittorio Costa, head of the Costa family. Mid-50s, silver-haired, with eyes that calculated everything. Miss Moreau, he said smoothly. You're quite the surprise. Raphael has never brought anyone to these gatherings before. He thought it was time to change that. Indeed. Tell me, what does a woman from your background see in our world? It must seem quite brutal compared to your art galleries. It was a test. Isabella chose her words carefully. I see men who understand that power requires responsibility. That leadership demands sacrifice. It's not so different from running a business. Just higher stakes. Vittorio smiled, impressed. Diplomatic. Raphael chose well. He leaned closer, voice dropping. But you should know, Miss Moreau, that not everyone is pleased by your presence. Some see you as Raphael's weak point. An opportunity. Ice flooded her veins. Who? That would be telling. But watch yourself. And watch Raphael. Love makes even the strongest men vulnerable. Before Isabella could respond, Raphael's hand closed around hers under the table. He'd been watching. He'd seen the exchange. His expression remained neutral, but she felt the tension in his grip. The rest of dinner passed in mounting unease. That night, in their suite overlooking the canal, Raphael paced like a caged predator. What did Costa say to you? Isabella repeated the conversation. Raphael's expression darkened with each word. He was warning you. Or threatening. Hard to tell with him. Do you trust him? I don't trust anyone here. Except Julian. Raphael stopped pacing, running hands through his hair. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have brought you. I should have. Stop. Isabella crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. You made the right choice. If I'd stayed home, you'd have been distracted worrying about me. Here you can see me. Protect me. We're in this together, remember? If something happens to you, it won't. Because you're too controlling to let it. She kissed him softly. And because I'm smarter than they think. I can handle this, Raphael. Trust me the way I trust you. His arms came around her, holding tight. I love you. More than power. More than my empire. More than my own life. I know. That's why we'll survive this. They made love that night with desperate intensity, finding shelter in each other while surrounded by danger. Afterward, Raphael held her close, neither of them sleeping easily. The storm was coming. They both felt it. The final day of the summit was reserved for private negotiations. Raphael spent hours in closed meetings while Isabella remained in a secured lounge with other family members. The women assessed her with calculating eyes, determining if she was worthy of Raphael's attention. You're very young, one woman said. Valentina Ricci, wife of a powerful captain. This life isn't easy for someone who didn't grow up in it. I'm learning quickly. Are you prepared for what it means? The secrets you'll keep? The things you'll have to accept? The blood on his hands that you'll have to wash away. Isabella met her gaze steadily. I chose Raphael knowing exactly what he is. I'm not naive. I'm committed. Valentina's expression softened slightly. Good. Because the men who come home to us need someone strong enough to bear their darkness. Someone who won't break under the weight of what they do. If you can be that for Raphael, you'll have earned your place. It was acceptance, grudging but real. The afternoon stretched on. Isabella was contemplating escape when Julian found her, his expression grim. We need to go. Now. What's wrong? Someone leaked information about Raphael's Eastern operations to the authorities. They're planning raids. We have 2 hours to get ahead of it. Julian's hand closed around her elbow, guiding her toward the exit. Raphael's already gone. He's handling damage control. I'm getting you somewhere safe. They moved quickly through the palazzo, avoiding the main corridors. Isabella's heart raced. This was the threat Costa had hinted at. Someone had used the summit as cover to strike at Raphael. They made it to the boat dock. Julian helped her aboard, then gave rapid orders to the pilot. As they pulled away from the palazzo, Isabella watched the beautiful building recede. Who did this? She asked. We don't know yet. But Raphael will find out. And when he does. Julian's expression was colder than she'd ever seen. Even the charming brother had limits. Whoever it is just made the worst mistake of their life. The safe house was a villa outside Florence, tucked into hills and surrounded by Raphael's guards. Isabella waited there for 6 hours before Raphael finally arrived. He looked like barely controlled chaos. His suit was rumpled, his expression savage. But when he saw her, relief flooded his features. You're safe. Julian got me out. What happened? Raphael collapsed onto the couch beside her, pulling her into his lap. The raids were coordinated. Someone gave the authorities detailed information about 6 of my operations. We lost product, money, and 3 good men are in custody. Can you get them out? Already working on it. But the damage is done. I look weak. Vulnerable. Exactly what someone at that summit wanted. His jaw clenched. It was Costa. Had to be. He warned you as a distraction while his people were preparing the leak. What are you going to do? Raphael's eyes were cold fire. I'm going to destroy him. His businesses, his reputation, his family's standing. I'm going to make an example so devastating that no one ever tries this again. Isabella should have been horrified. Should have counseled mercy. But she'd seen Raphael work himself ragged to build his empire ethically where possible. She'd seen him protect innocent people. Costa had attacked him with no honor, no cause beyond ambition. How can I help? Raphael pulled back, surprised. What? You heard me. How can I help? I'm not useless, Raphael. I have skills. Connections in the art world that overlap with yours. If you're going to wage war, let me be part of it. Absolutely not. You're staying here, protected until this is resolved. No. I'm not hiding while you fight alone. That's not the partnership you promised me. Isabella cupped his face. Use me. Let me be the weapon they don't see coming. Raphael stared at her, warring with himself. Protection versus respect. Control versus trust. Finally, he made his choice. There's a charity auction next week. Major art event. Costa will be there, he collects. If you can get close to him, maybe overhear something useful. Raphael's expression was torn. But if anything feels wrong, you leave. Immediately. Promise me. I promise. And Marco goes with you. Armed. Watching you every second. Deal. Raphael kissed her hard, sealing the agreement. When they broke apart, his eyes held new respect. You're incredible. And terrifying. And mine. Always yours. The charity auction was glittering and dangerous. Isabella wore black, elegant and understated. Marco shadowed her, looking uncomfortable in a suit. Raphael was elsewhere, handling other aspects of his retaliation against Costa. But he'd made her promise to check in every hour. She'd already texted him twice. I'm fine. Stop worrying. His response was immediate. Never. Isabella smiled despite her nerves. Then she spotted Costa across the room, examining a sculpture. She approached casually, playing the part of fellow art lover. Striking piece, she observed. Baroque influence but contemporary execution. Costa turned, recognizing her immediately. Miss Moreau. How unexpected. And brave, given recent events. I don't hide because things get difficult. No. I'm beginning to see that. Costa studied her appraisingly. Raphael is lucky to have found you. Most women would run from what he is. Most women don't understand that darkness and devotion can coexist. Philosophical. Tell me, does your devotion extend to forgiving his inevitable betrayals? Men like Raphael always prioritize power over love. With respect, Mr. Costa, you don't know Raphael the way I do. Perhaps. Or perhaps you're willfully blind. He gestured to a painting nearby. Like this piece. Beautiful from one angle. But step to the side and you see the cracks. The decay beneath the surface. Isabella's pulse quickened. Was he talking about Raphael? Or confessing his own involvement? She pressed carefully. Some would say cracks make art more interesting. More real. It's the flaws that tell the true story. Costa's smile sharpened. Indeed. And Raphael's flaws are significant. His territory is cracking. His protection of you makes him vulnerable. Some might say he's painting his own destruction. There was admission wrapped in metaphor. And some might say, Isabella replied coolly, that underestimating him because he loves someone is the real mistake. Love doesn't weaken Raphael. It focuses him. Makes him more dangerous, not less. Costa's expression shifted, calculating. You really believe that? I know that. Because I've seen what he's capable of when someone threatens what's his. Mr. Costa, if you've done something to hurt Raphael, you should prepare accordingly. She walked away before he could respond, her heart pounding. Marco fell into step beside her, hand near his concealed weapon. That was reckless, he muttered. That was necessary. Now Costa knows I'm not afraid of him. And that Raphael has someone willing to go to war for him. She texted Raphael immediately. Costa all but confessed. He thinks you're weakened. Time to prove him wrong. Raphael's response came minutes later. On it. Come home to me, boys. The retaliation was swift and devastating. Over the next week, Costa's operations collapsed like dominoes. Suppliers cut ties. Partners withdrew. Authorities suddenly became very interested in his business practices. And through it all, no one could trace it directly back to Raphael. But everyone knew. Isabella watched from Raphael's penthouse as the empire she'd helped topple crumbled. She felt no guilt. Costa had struck first without honor. This was justice in Raphael's world. It's almost over, Raphael said one evening, coming up behind her at the window. His arms wrapped around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder. One more move and Costa will be finished. What move? The families are calling for his removal. Tomorrow night there's a meeting. They'll vote to strip his territory and redistribute it. He'll be lucky if he keeps his life. Will you take his territory? Some of it. But I'll share with the other families. Show I'm not greedy. That I respect the balance. Raphael turned her to face him. And then I'm done. I'm restructuring everything. Delegating more. Because I want time for us. For the life I promised you. Isabella's heart swelled. You mean it. Every word. I've spent years building power. Now I want to build something else. Something with you. He kissed her and Isabella tasted promise in it. Hope. A future that was more than survival. Marry me, Raphael said when they broke apart. Not someday. No. Tomorrow after the meeting. I don't want to wait anymore. Tomorrow. I've already made arrangements. Small ceremony. Just us and Julian as witness. Then a honeymoon somewhere no one can find us. His hands framed her face. Say yes, Isabella. Choose me one more time. Forever this time. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, heartbroken by his rejection. She thought about the woman she was now, standing in the penthouse of a mafia boss, about to agree to marry into a world of beautiful darkness. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Raphael's smile was incandescent. He lifted her off her feet, spinning her, both of them laughing like the world wasn't dangerous and complicated. In that moment they were just two people in love. The complications could wait until tomorrow. But complications never waited. The call came at midnight. Raphael answered his phone, listened for 30 seconds, then went rigid. I'm on my way. What's wrong? Isabella was already climbing out of bed. Julian's been taken. Costa's making a last desperate move. He's demanding I come alone or... Raphael couldn't finish the sentence. I have to go. This is a trap. I know. But he's my brother. I can't. Raphael's control was fracturing. Julian was his one true weakness. The person he'd protected since childhood. I have to try. Isabella grabbed his arm. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. He's using Julian as bait because he knows you'll come. But what if you bring something he doesn't expect? Me. The woman who supposedly makes you weak. Let me be your surprise. Raphael looked torn. Every instinct screamed to lock her away, keep her safe. But she'd proven herself capable. Smart. And she was right. Costa wouldn't expect her. You stay in the car. You don't get out unless I signal. And if things go wrong you run. Promise me. I promise. It was a lie and they both knew it. But Raphael was out of time and options. The meeting place was an abandoned warehouse near the docks. Raphael's convoy pulled up precisely at 1 a.m. He emerged alone as instructed, walking toward the warehouse with lethal confidence. But Isabella watched from the car, Marco beside her, both of them armed. Inside the warehouse, Costa waited with Julian bound to a chair. Raphael's brother was bruised but alive, his eyes fierce with anger. Raphael, Costa called out. So nice of you to join us. And so predictable. Let him go. Your fight is with me. True. But where's the fun in that? Costa circled Julian like a predator. You see, I realized something. You don't fear death. You fear loss. You fear losing the people you love. So I'm going to take them from you one by one. Touch him and I'll destroy everything you've ever loved. You've already done that. My territory, my reputation, my family's standing, all gone. Because of you. Costa pulled a gun, pressing it to Julian's temple. So now I take something of yours. Raphael moved instantly, but Costa's men stepped forward, guns raised. Stalemate. Outside, Isabella saw it all through the warehouse windows. She saw the gun at Julian's head. Saw Raphael frozen. Saw Costa's finger tightening on the trigger. She didn't think. She just moved. Isabella burst from the car, Marco cursing behind her. She ran toward the warehouse, drawing every eye. Costa's men turned, distracted. And in that moment of confusion, Raphael struck. The fight was brutal and fast. Raphael moved with trained precision, disarming Costa's men with lethal efficiency. Gunfire erupted. Isabella hit the ground, covering her head. Marco returned fire, providing cover. When the chaos cleared, Raphael stood over Costa, gun pointed at his head. Julian was free, cutting his bindings. And Isabella was being pulled to safety by Marco, unhurt but shaking. You brought her, Costa gasped, blood on his lips. Your weakness. No, Raphael said coldly. My strength. The reason I fight. The reason I survive. You thought love made me vulnerable. You were wrong. It makes me unstoppable. He pulled the trigger. Isabella turned away, but she heard it. The sound that ended Costa's threat forever. When she looked back, Raphael was walking toward her, dropping the gun, pulling her into his arms. You were supposed to stay in the car. You were supposed to be safe. Raphael laughed, the sound nearly hysterical. We're both terrible at following orders. Julian joined them, limping but grinning. She saved my life. Distracted them long enough for you to move. I owe you, Isabella. You don't owe me anything. Your family. The word hung in the air, significant and true. They were family now. Bound by blood and choice and love that survived even the worst this world could throw at them. The wedding happened at dawn. Not tomorrow as planned, but today. No. Because they'd almost died and neither of them wanted to wait another hour to make it official. They stood on Raphael's penthouse terrace, the sun rising over the city. Julian served as witness along with Marco. A priest arrived, asking no questions about the late hour or the blood still on Raphael's shirt. Isabella wore a simple white dress. Raphael wore the promise in his eyes. They exchanged vows quietly, personally, binding themselves together before God and witnesses. I promise to love you in darkness and light, Raphael said. To protect you without controlling you. To trust you even when I'm terrified. To build a life worthy of the gift you've given me. I promise to stand beside you, Isabella replied. To be your strength when you falter. To see the man you are, not the monster you fear becoming. To choose you every day for the rest of my life. The priest pronounced them married. Raphael kissed her like she was salvation itself. And as the sun broke over the horizon, bathing them in light, Isabella thought about beginnings. This was theirs. Hard-won and blood-bought. But theirs. 3 months later, Isabella stood in the nursery of their new home, hand resting on her barely visible baby bump. They'd moved out of the penthouse into an estate outside the city. Somewhere with gardens and space and safety. Raphael had kept his promise. He'd delegated his operations, stepping back from the daily danger. He still had power, still commanded respect. But he'd chosen life over empire. Chosen her. Chosen their future. "You're supposed to be resting," Raphael said from the doorway. Isabella turned, smiling. He looked different now. Softer somehow. Still dangerous, still intense. But there was peace in him that hadn't existed before. "I'm just looking at the nursery. Imagining." Raphael crossed to her, hand joining hers on her stomach. "Boy or girl? Does it matter? No. As long as they're healthy. As long as you're safe." He kissed her temple. "I never thought I'd have this. Family. Peace. Happiness. I thought I was too broken for it." "You were never broken. Just waiting for the right person to see past the armor. Lucky for me you're stubborn. Lucky for me you're obsessive." They stood there, wrapped in each other, feeling the tiny life growing between them. Outside, the sun shone on gardens that would see their children playing. Inside, safety and love had built something stronger than any empire. "Do you regret it?" Raphael asked quietly. "The danger, the violence, the life I pulled you into." Isabella thought about the journey. The rejection that was protection. The ballroom moment that changed everything. The battles fought and won. The love that demanded everything and gave even more. "Not for a second," she said. "You were worth the risk. We were worth the fight." Raphael turned her to face him, eyes intense with devotion. "I love you. More now than the day I married you. More tomorrow than today. For the rest of my life and whatever comes after. I love you too. My monster. My protector. My husband." They kissed and Isabella tasted forever in it. Some love stories were easy, gentle, safe. Theirs was obsessive and dangerous and absolutely consuming. But it was real. It was theirs. And it was worth every moment of fear to find this happiness. 6 months later, Isabella gave birth to a daughter. They named her Lucia after Raphael's mother. She had her father's dark eyes and her mother's delicate features. And from the moment Raphael held her, Isabella watched him transform completely. The most dangerous man in the city cradled his daughter like she was made of glass. He whispered promises to her. Vows that she'd never know danger. That he'd build a world safe enough for her dreams. Julian visited often, spoiling his niece shamelessly. Marco became an honorary uncle, standing guard even though the threats had long since faded. The families respected Raphael's new boundaries. And those who didn't learned quickly not to test him. Because Raphael DeSantis had something worth protecting now. Something worth being better for. One evening, Isabella found him in Lucia's nursery, simply watching her sleep. "You know she can't actually disappear if you look away," Isabella teased gently. Raphael smiled, pulling her against his side. "I know. But I spent so many years looking at you across rooms, afraid to get close. I don't want to miss a single moment now." "You won't. We have a lifetime of moments ahead of us. Promise. Promise. You're stuck with me, Raphael. Forever." "Good." He kissed her softly. "Because forever with you is exactly what I've been fighting for." They stood together watching their daughter sleep, building a life that was more than survival. More than empire. Something precious and rare and worth every sacrifice. Isabella thought about the woman who'd walked into that ballroom on Julian's arm, trying to make Raphael see her. She'd succeeded beyond her wildest dreams. Because Raphael hadn't just seen her. He'd chosen her. Loved her. Built a kingdom and laid it at her feet. And she'd chosen him right back. The dangerous, obsessive, devoted man who'd pushed her away to protect her, then pulled her close and never let go. Some love stories were gentle. Theirs was fire and devotion and obsessive protection wrapped in forever. And Isabella wouldn't change a single moment. The end. Love isn't always safe. Sometimes it's dangerous, obsessive and all-consuming. But when two people choose each other despite the darkness, despite the danger, despite everything the world throws at them, that's when love becomes unstoppable. Raphael and Isabella found their forever in the most unlikely place. In each other's arms, surrounded by a world that tried to tear them apart. But they fought. They survived. They loved. Thank you for reading their story. If you loved this tale of obsessive devotion and dark romance, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories where powerful men fall hardest and love conquers even the darkest of worlds.